Hello guys, in this video we will see about some of the Angular questions. So I am going for here Angular again. So I will start from the set 5. Okay. So what is the purpose of Angular's ng if structural? I mean structural directive. Here it is conditionally add or remove some portion of data. So which syntax is correct for the ng if? When we are using else, right? In that case, it is dot then else block. Okay, so this will be the one else block, then block, and also ng else block and if condition. Okay, and condition. Okay, and what does ng if and what does the ng for directive track by function help with? It is improving the rendering by tracking items to avoid unnecessary DOM recreation. Then which of the following is true about attribute directives? So is they modify they modify the appearance or behavior of an existing element. How do you recreate a custom pipe in Angular that performs a uppercase transformation? So here it is implement pipe transform and define transform using. Which built-in pipe would you use to format a data date in Angular templates? Obviously, it is date. What does the async pipe do when used with observable in template? So what it will do, it will subscribe to the observable, return the latest value, unsubscribes automatically on component destroy. Which metadata decorator or values marks a directive as changing the host's element or style in Angular? It is at directive selector host. So next one, which Angular API is typically used inside a structural directive to create insert and insert templates dynamically? So it's template ref and view container ref. How do you mark a custom pipe as impure so it runs on every change detection? So it is at pipe a name pure as false. Right? So what is the default behavior of Angular structural directives regarding the host element where they are applied? So here it is. They convert they convert the host element to the command node and manage the views. So next one, which pipe would you use to display an object as JSON string in template for debugging? It is JSON. Next, in a if, if a custom pipe is pure, when will it reevaluate with the same input reference? It is obviously here only when manually, only when reference of the input object value changes. Which lifecycle hook is commonly used in attribute directive to set up the host listener? Okay, here it is like ng on it. What is the correct syntax to capture in index inside NG for it is NG for let item of items index as I. Next, which statement about the Angular built-in pipes is correct in Angular 12 plus? Here it is like built-in pipes like data and currency supports local formatting. To style the host element from to style the host element from attribute directive, which decorator is commonly used. Here it is at host binding. Which option is correct to make a impure pipe? Here it is to recalculate output when internal mutable data and of its input change without reference change. Next one is like okay. Next one, how can a structural directive accept input properties from its host element by defining at input setter on directive class with directive selector prefix. What is recommended way to apply multiple structure directives to same host name? Here the answer is again the last one. Wrap on one element inside another element. So element has a single structural directive. So we can see after submission are all done. So let us go for the next one. Again, I am going for Angular. This time I will go for the set 6. So what is the primary role of view container ref in custom structural directive? Here it is option B to create, insert and remove the embedded views. Next is like what which is symbol used at by the Angular compiler to indicate micro syntax sugar for structural directive like pointer mydr. Here it is here it is like it is converted to ng template with attribute directive. In a attribute directive, which decorator is used to bind class property to host property, it is actually host host binding. So here, what does the async pipe do when you use it an observable with an observable in template? It is automatically subscribes and unsubscribes as a uh, as the view as the view is created and destroyed. Okay, next. When would you mark a custom pipe as impure? Here it's when the pipe's output depends upon mutable inputs. This one, okay. So which built-in pipe would you use to format a number as a currency in Angular templates? It is actually currency. So what is the current signature per pipes transform method? It is pipes transform method. It is like transform input any arcs and any, okay, the arcs and any last the first one, option A. And how can a structural directive receive an input named app repeat to control repetition? Define a setter input with default with director directive selector as property name. Which of the following is true about pure pipes in Angular? Here it is. Uh, they are re-evaluated only when input reference or arguments change. In custom structural directive that renders a template conditionally, which method of view container ref removes all views? It is actually clear. Which variable provides star ng for provided by star gives an access to total number of items in the list. It is length. What does track by function used with ng for improve? So it can be able to change the detection by preserving the DOM elements with same identity. Next is like which of the following is valid reason to use host listener inside an attribute directive? It is actually the to listen to the DOM events on host element and react inside direct. Which Angular built-in pipe would you use to format a date in localized string? Is date. How do you provide additional content variables when using ng template outlet? So it is like bypassing an object to ng template outlet content outlet context input. Then next is like what is the safe practice when a custom pipe injects a service that opens subscriptions internally? So here it is use take until or manage life cycles to avoid memory leaks. Which decorator option allows a pipe to be tree shakeable and injectable as a standalone provider starting from the Angular 14 plus. Okay, so here it is provided in on at pipe. In a attribute directive that toggles CSS classes based on input, which approach is recommended for applying multiple classes effectively? Here it is use host binding for each class and toggle booleans. Which statement about chaining multiple pipes in template is true? Here it is the output of pipe A becomes the input of pipe B sequentially. Which API would you typically inject into structural directive to gain access to the template ref? It is template ref. So we'll go for the next set, that is set 7. So which Angular module method is used to configure application level routes in root module? So it's like router module dot for route of routes. Option A. What is the purpose of feature module in Angular? So it is used to group the related components, services, and routes for specific domain on feature. Which router outlet directive is placed in a template to render matched routed components? It is router outlet. How do you configure lazy loading for feature modules using dynamic import syntax? It is actually load children and import and where we are going dot then and also getting the particular feature module. Which guard interface is used to prevent navigation to route before it is activated? It is actually can activate. When using lazy loading with children and a feature module provides a service with provided in root. What is the service scope? Here it is singleton across the entire application. Which of these is valid reason to use router module dot for child in a feature module? Here it is to register child routes that will be merged with the root router configuration. What happens if two lazy loaded modules provide same service token without provided in when both are loaded? Here it is obviously question A, question 8. I think it's option A. Each module gets its own instance of service. Which guard would you implement to prevent a module from being loaded at all based on the access rules? Here it is can load. In Angular 14 plus, what new routing related feature enables route level injection without ng module? Standalone components and provide router with route level providers. Which preloaded strategy loads all lazy modules immediately after the app is stable? Okay, here it is by preload all modules. Next one, how can I activate got return a result synchronously by returning observable or promise? What is the effect of placing multiple route outlet elements in parent component? What it will do, it will by returning, okay, it will enable the named outlets to render different routes simultaneously. Which decorator property would you use to export components from feature module so they can be used in other modules? So here it is exports. If we export only, we can able to do it. Which Angular concept allows route data to be fetched before activating the route and passed to the component? Here it is resolve guard via a resolver. In a lazy loaded feature module route configuration, how would you protect child routes with auth guard applied only to children? So here it is like we can activate child on parent route pointing to the auth guard. Which import is necessary in feature module to use route link directive in its templates? So here it is router module. What is the downside of overusing eager loaded feature modules in large app? So here it is increased increased initial build size and slower app startup. Which technique ensures that lazy module code is downloaded only when user navigates to its dot. So here it is lazy loading using load children with dynamic input. In advanced routing, how can you implement role-based navigation where routes are chosen based on user roles before activation? So here it is, we can implement, can activate. Here it is also can activate that checks user roles and return the boolean tree. Almost all are yes. Almost all are yes actually. Okay. So let us go back and again IT Angular. So we'll go for set 8. In the set 8, okay, we'll see which Angular module decorator property is used to register services that should be available application wide without adding them to providers array of route module. Here it is provided in. What is the primary purpose of router outlet in Angular application? So it is placeholder where matched routed components are rendered, obviously. So how do you define a lazy loaded route in Angular using modern import syntax? So here it is at load children import, and we are calling that particular feature module. Okay. Next, which guard interface allows you to prevent navigation away from the route? Can deactivate. So next, what is the effect of setting run guards and resolvers always on route? So it will guard and resolves run on every navigation to the route, even if parameters do not change. So, which guard is specifically designed to decide whether a lazy loaded module should be loaded at all? So it is like can load. So in feature module intended for lazy loading, which import must you avoid in order to keep module truly lazy? Import the feature module into app module. So which method should a can activate got return to support asynchronous permission checks with observables? So here it is like observable boolean. When using multiple router outlet instances, how does Angular distinguish which routed component goes into the which outlet? So it is like by matching the outlet name in the route configuration. Which of the following is valid reason to create a feature module to encapsulate the related component directives and services for specific domain? How can you pass static data to a routed component via route configuration? So here it is like using data property on the route. What happens if you register same name in both a lazy loaded feature module provides array and provided in root. So it is like the lazy module provides its own instance, shadowing the root instance or module injector, which which router event can be used to detect lazy loaded modules have finished loading. So here it is route config load end. In Angular routing, what is the primary role of resolver? Fetch data before route activation so component can receive it synchronously. So next one, which technique can you use to split a large feature module into small chunks for on-demand loading? So here we can create sub feature modules and lazy load them via child routes. Which CLI command generates a module configured for lazy loading with a routing module. Here it is ng generate module feature route feature app module ts, which import is required in feature modules routing module to use router module dot for child. So obviously it is a option. Yeah, obviously it is like import router module and call router module for child. Which scenario justifies using can load instead of can activate? So it is used to prevent lazy modules code from being downloaded if user lacks permission. Which when implementing role-based routing decisions, where is the most appropriate place to centralize logic authorization logic? It is obviously at injectable auth service used by gods.